It's just a favor I want to ask him. Let's see, kid, what do you want? What favor do you want? I told him, if you're going to kill me, I only ask that you leave me where my family can find me. Don't leave me in the woods. Don't just leave me lying around there. If you're going to kill me, I only ask that you leave me somewhere my family will find me.
We've seen before that not even 1 million followers, likes, or views work as bulletproof vests. Being in front of a camera or a cell phone screen has become a business for many. It not only translates into money and luxury, but most importantly, what keeps it at the highest level, which is influence. However, there were times when people did not measure their words or actions to generate more followers or views, actions that offended the wrong people. And it is that the influence of the media does not resemble the highest pinnacle of the power pyramid, where problems are solved with money and affronts with bullets. So here are more influencers, because this is the second part, who crossed a dangerous line to gain followers, whether it's exposing names, businesses, or simply making them envious. Chinelos are the masks used by the dancers of the indigenous villages, especially those from Tlayacapan in Morelos. This is where the YouTuber Ruben Ortega took his nickname for social networks from Super Chinelo. Ruben Ortega ventured into social media and YouTube in 2019. He managed to gain thousands of followers and he became a reference of Mexican customs, covering parties, events, art, travels throughout the Mexican nation, his songs and foods. Then with his colorful and traditional Chinelo mask, he filmed himself with a microphone in hand, sharing all the richness of the culture and folklore of Mexico, where at each event he interviewed musicians, dancers, and people from the public. A very beloved YouTuber, you're going to ask, without enemies? Well, apparently not, because on August 31st, 2022, Super Chinelo arrived at his home where he lived with his wife and 4-year-old son in the municipality of Ixtapaluca in the state of Mexico. It was 12:30 in the afternoon. There were many people on the streets because it was time to pick up the preschool children. Super Chinelo got out of his car to open the gate of his house. 2 men were in there. What the YouTuber didn't know was that they were waiting for him and greeted him with a hail of bullets that instantly took his life. At least 9 shots hit his body squarely. His wife inside the car was injured by a bullet impact and the shattered glass. His 4-year-old son was unharmed. The greatest pain came when they explained to him that Dad would not return, that they would keep his videos to remember his voice and his joy. The sad news obviously impacted the community. Super Chinelo was very loved and, as far as was believed, had no enemies or death threats that could guide investigators to the perpetrators of the tragedy. The 2 criminals were obviously after his life, thus ruling out the motive of robbery, and the unknowns then skyrocketed and one theory became stronger than all others. It was common for Super Chinelo to interview people from the public, often passers-by who had had too much to drink. The YouTuber gave them a voice, and it was impossible not to laugh at the state of some of these people. So was there someone angry about being exposed like this on social media? The 2 people responsible for his death would appear in a video featuring this YouTuber. He angered the wrong people? Well, so far this is not known. Reynosa, Tamaulipas is key due to its location bordering Texas, United States of America. This added value made it a prize loot for criminal organizations, especially the Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas, who waged a fierce war for years. With streets bathed in red, the innocent people of Reynosa could only pray. In real life, superheroes with superpowers do not exist, although there were those who acquired powers thanks to the use of social networks. Valor for Tamaulipas and Responsibility for Tamaulipas are Twitter and Facebook accounts that became a means for anonymous heroes to denounce and report in real time what was happening. With criminal activities of the cartels that operate in that area. So it was on Valor for Tamaulipas, specifically on Twitter, where since the year 2011, the figure of a mysterious user, MU3, grew. Felina was her nickname, and her profile pic was Catwoman. Like the superheroes in the comics, she brought out her alter ego at night to fight evil with the weapons she had at hand. Tweets and hashtags like SDR Reynosa and hashtag Reynosa Follow, with which she reported shootings, violent acts of the armed forces, criminal groups, and even the inefficiency and corruption of the local government. She used strong and aggressive language, unafraid of the criminals. He rose to the occasion in a state of war to provide insults to those who ruined the peace of his beloved city. In a short time, he became a person of interest to the mobsters.
Threats on social media soon arrived from users such as Agarzaloraone 142. We are close to several. Be careful, Felina.
This is what the tweet said. But despite the danger, Felina continues her heroic work for the community of Reynosa and Tamaulipas. Her true identity was hidden behind the image of Catwoman. Similarly, due to her brave and bold temperament, a true feline. But behind all of that, a person, and her real name was Maria del Rosario Fuente Rubio, and she really was a heroine outside of social media. Her job was to save lives. She was a doctor, provided help to countless people and non-profit organizations, always ready to lend a hand, as she did with the victims of Hurricane Ingrid, for example, which devastated the coasts of Veracruz back in the year 2013. Coincidentally, her profession revealed her other identity. And it was on the night of October 15th of the year 2014, a man entered her hospital with a convulsing child in his arms. Dr. Fuentes Rubio did everything possible to save the little boy's life, but she didn't succeed. She never imagined that her own life would be tied to this boy's, because some armed men showed up at the hospital and wanted to see the professionals who couldn't save the little boy's life. Turns out he was a relative of an important cartel member. The tool she used to fight crime gave her away. When the armed men checked the doctors and the other two hospital professionals' phones, they discovered that Fuente Rubio was none other than La Felina, the Twitter user who caused so much headache for the cartels by exposing their actions. So that same night, the activity on the Valor Port Tamaulipas portal became suspicious. And several tweets and messages were asking where La Felina was. What happened to La Felina? A day later, horror took over Twitter. La Felina resumed tweeting, posting eerie content. Friends and family, my real name is Maria del Rosario Fuente Rubio. I am a doctor. Today my life has come to an end. I have nothing else to say but to tell you not to make the same mistake I did. You gain nothing. On the contrary, today I realize that I found death in exchange for nothing. They are closer to us than you think. In this way, the hope that it was a tasteless joke by a heartless and bored hacker prevailed for a moment, but it would soon end with the last and definitive tweet that put an end to the life of Maria del Rosario Fuente Rubio. Hashtag Reynosa Follow. Close your accounts. Don't risk your relatives like I did. I ask for your forgiveness. She was neither the first nor the last journalist and social media influencer who met a tragic fate for confronting and also denouncing organized crime. In the year 2011, 3 people were found dead in Tamaulipas for denouncing the activities of criminals, among them a journalist who was cut from this part up. However, this did not scare Maria del Rosario Fuente Rubio, but as a true heroine, she found her alter ego on social media to confront them. Social media became a showcase of ostentation and exposure. Showing a life full of luxuries and dreams for many generates thousands and millions of followers. But what happens when so much exposure turns against one? Well, Claudia Berenice Ochoa Felix gained a lot of notoriety for posting photos that showed her luxurious lifestyle through social media, Twitter, and Facebook. The woman, always very made up, long and outlined eyelashes, stunning body, a supermodel at first glance. She could be seen posing in the most beautiful capitals of Europe or in the Inca culture Machu Picchu in Peru. Her money could place her anywhere in the world, and she made a show of it on her social media. But behind her sculpted body, her jewels, and her luxurious designer clothes, a fierce and lethal woman was hidden. Her other life, the one she kept hidden, surfaced as her influence on social media made her famous. They called her the Kim Kardashian of Sinaloa due to her striking physical resemblance to the American media personality, but the nickname that put her on everyone's lips was the Empress of the Antrax. By the way, the Antrax were the armed wing of the Sinaloa Cartel, a group that saw its membership grow at the same time as they became increasingly deadly and bloodthirsty. Founded and led by Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, known as El Chino Antrax, who was the partner of Claudia Ochoa Felix. By the way, you can find a video about this character on my YouTube channel. But anyway, when El Chino Antrax was arrested in December of 2013 in the Netherlands and extradited to the United States, the Empress of the Antrax was identified as the new leader of this armed wing and pointed out as the most terrifying enforcer of the Sinaloa cartel. Her operations range from executions of enemies and civilians to providing security for the historic cartel boss Ismael El Mayo Zambada himself and his relatives. The Empress's fame on social media grew even more. Her royal name placed her as the most powerful woman in Mexico, right hand to none other than one of the most powerful cartels in the world and under the shadow of two huge figures in the criminal world like Mayo Zambada and El Chapo. And besides, she was accused of being the mind behind more than 600 lives taken away. Lethal as a scorpion, we can say, however.
To all journalistic media, my sincere recognition. But also for those who misinform, confuse, and deceive with false notes. However, many
While there was clear evidence linking her to the organizational direction of the Antra, her photos posing with long guns of different colors did not help her image as a mother and innocent woman of what she was accused of. In her defense, she said that she studied medicine, especially nursing, and that she worked for a long time as a promoter for important brands in the country, and that she never had any relationship with anyone from the drug trade. However, journalists investigated her life and revealed that Claudia Ochoa Felix's life was of a middle-class family, but everything changed when, as a teenager, she met Chavo Felix, with whom she married and had her only 3 children. Chavo Felix was the one who allegedly introduced her to the Sinaloa cartel, but her rise to power would come through a subsequent relationship with El Chino Antrax. Those who claim she was the true leader of the cartel's armed wing highlight that she was much more lethal and fierce than El Chino. With her name and image in all the media, she chose to step away from social media, and for a while no one knew about her. The investigations could not link her to what was supposed to be her reign of evil. However, a year later, in 2017, she made news again, but in Argentina, where she supposedly traveled because her defense in the media angered the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, who saw her as a potential collaborator with the authorities under pressure. Then in that country, her name was associated with a double homicide when they found businessman Leonardo Fernandez, alias the magician Alex, and his young girlfriend dead in their home in San Fernando, Buenos Aires. The gruesome crime scene had characteristics of a drug trafficking hit, which later, as it was investigated, the businessman and the Empress had businesses based on lying to investors, using as a front a purebred horse breeding operation dedicated to. Sinaloa's Kim Kardashian was listed as vice president of the elite Argentine polo company, while her brother served as the general director. On September 14, 2019, her life ended. That day, the Empress went to a nightclub and left with a man to continue partying at her house. This man found the woman lifeless and who called the police and first aid. The Empress of the Antrax lost by asphyxiation, by bronchoaspiration due to excessive intake of alcoholic beverages and illegal substances. She was only 35 years old. However, what for a long time was classified as an accidental death reached a new tenor, and that is Claudia Ochoa Felix at the time gave the press conference because the exposure put her in real danger. Her defiant posts angered her rivals. Her head had a price on the Mexican streets. With more than 30,000 followers on Instagram and 70,000 on YouTube, Jorge Luis El Compa Jorge, rose as a recreational motorsport influencer. His original content was about off-road racers known for their sporty style and ability to drive on rough roads, muddy trails, something he took advantage of by driving them through the mountainous valleys or coastal plains of Culiacan. His fame grew on social media, and with it he achieved a high social and economic status. He loved to show off his lifestyle, and he boasted about it on his networks already. He already had a large lot of racers valued at 500,000 Mexican pesos each, but everything was little and much was insufficient. So he liked to show himself in photos with luxury cars, trips to paradisiacal places, and even with a lion cub he bought. For his birthday, he had his cake decorated with pastries in the shape of dollar bills, jewels, and the illegal white powder. However, at one point his content began to vary. Compa Jorge was no longer just uploading videos about the goings and events of the off-roaders. He became the star and protagonist, always on top of a car. He talked about car thefts and a quad bike that suffered a theft and shooting at his house. Although his first-person experiences didn't end there, he talked about how dangerous it is to live in Culiacan and even a deprivation of freedom he suffered.
No one laughs now, but at that moment, well, it's something that keeps you awake for many days. For many days, I would wake up in the night panicked, as if I dreamed that they were still delivering me by throwing a punch on top of the car.
The problem was that this annoyed some cartel too much. Their good name was tarnished by an influencer. In addition, he accused them of stealing his belongings as war loot. Either way, the views skyrocketed for Jorge's channel, and this prompted him to share more anecdotes, like when he met the son of Chapo Guzman, Ivan Archibaldo. Then, on April 18th of the year 2022, Jorge shared a story on his social media sharing his routine. He said he was going to stop by a bank to see if there wasn't a long line of people and do his paperwork. 45 minutes later, this became his last video. It was 1:45 in the afternoon when, on his way home in the Guadalupe Victoria neighborhood of Culiacan, a Toyota car intercepted him. Two heavily armed men got out of the car and, without saying a single word, opened fire on the influencer. At least 10 shots hit his torso, slowly closing his eyes forever. He was only 37 years old. The culprits of the tragedy of our friend Jorge remain uncaptured and unidentified, but through the streets and social networks, it is known that he spoke and boasted too much. Certain people are not spoken of so lightly. One never knows how they can offend people in power. It's better to stay quiet. Azucena Uresti Mireles is a journalist who gained great notoriety and impact in Mexico. Her influence transcended platforms. People followed her both in traditional media and on her social networks, where she exceeds hundreds of thousands of followers. The dream of any communicator. But how did she achieve it? Well, she built her career with a strong commitment to critical journalism, with freedom of expression as her highest standard, which earned her the loyalty of her followers. Azucena's word became reliable information. In addition, she tackled the topics that other journalists shy away from, the sensitive and complex issues. That's why she wasn't afraid to investigate and denounce, like when she reported on political parties' payments to influencers or her intense questioning in the 2018 presidential debate. However, there was a line she decided to cross, a line that few journalists and influencers dare to cross, and a line that many have lost their lives crossing. Azucena reported on the operations of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, and due to the impact, she expanded her reports through her social media to reach many more people.
The very leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, Mr. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, threatened the journalist.
Ruben Oseguera Cervantes threatened the journalist.
The quickly spreading video put Mexican journalism on edge, especially due to the specific threat to Azucena Uresti, and even more so due to the countless journalists who lost their lives for reporting and investigating about the drug trade. Uresti received strong support from all media outlets and her followers on social media, but the help of President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador was fundamental in ensuring her safety. Perhaps having gained so much relevance, the threat faded over time, and fortunately, the journalist did not suffer any attack. Thus, Uresti continued with her relentless style when it came to reporting and investigating. However, in January of 2014, she was fired from the Milenio Group supposedly for making reports against President Andres Manuel. From a bricklayer to a pizza delivery man, Roberto Saviano perhaps never imagined that through his words, he would generate an influence that would transcend the media, his city, his country, and that would put him on the Mafia's enemy list. Saviano was born in 1977 and grew up in Naples, Italy. He dreamed of becoming a writer and journalist. In literature, a famous writer, Goffredo Fofi, told him that he wrote well, but in softer words, he wrote things that were not very intelligent and gave him the best advice: write about where you come from. His attentiveness led to a change in his fortune. His book Camorra dealt with the Neapolitan Mafia, the dangerous Camorra. The success was immediate, becoming a bestseller and a film adaptation in 2008 that earned him multiple awards worldwide, including the Best Film Award at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival. Roberto Saviano became a figure of global impact as an author, but an unwelcome person on the streets of Naples. By exposing the business of the Camorra, how it moves within politics and how it ruins the youth of Naples, threats soon arrived. Phone calls at any time, messages signed by the Mafia group, photos of his children and family. Since then, Saviano lives with police custody 24 hours a day. Wherever he goes, he encounters the Mafia. In 2008, the Camorra threatened to kill him before Christmas of that year. Luckily, the threat was not carried out. But far from being intimidated, Saviano continued writing books about the mafias like 000, which also had its television adaptation and talks about the mafias and their international relations regarding their shipments. Events in Mexico can impact Italy and vice versa. In addition, he brought his story Gomorrah to the screen again as a television series that had wide distribution in the world thanks to home box office. And so in the year 2023, he again challenged the mafias by writing the bestseller, The Brave Are Alone, where he talks about Judge Giovanni Falcone and the mobster who ordered his death, Totorina.
To attack me, they wait for the attention on me and my case to decline, because today what keeps me alive is not the protection, which I appreciate, but the attention of the people, the success of my words.
The very own
Schiavone declared to the newspaper El Tempo that they are waiting for the public to lose interest in me and my books. That's all.
they wait, and my fate will obviously be this, simply that my parable descends and that in some way the attention around me, around my books, around my story fades away.
And how do you manage to live with that fear? No, for me it's not a terror. I'm very well. I know they'll make me pay a heavy price, but it's not out of fear. I try in some way to understand how, when, and why.
Roberto Saviano became an authoritative voice to speak about the mafias, even on a global level. He has stated that in the case of Mexico, members of the cartels should not simply be called narcos, but Mexican mafias due to the high level of organization and complexity with which they operate. In this second part, we continue with influencers who, with their content and words, annoyed important people. 5 new cases, and let's say a bonus track that expands what is considered an influencer. From the revolutionary Twitter of the early years of the 10s to traditional media journalists who took advantage of social networks for a new way to reach a wider audience in the same way, the digital age and the power and fame that can be achieved with a social network and a cell phone will never work as a bulletproof vest with those who handle the real power of the world, who handle it in a silver or lead way. But if you like this video, remember that there is also a first part that I will be leaving for you down here. It also talks about 5 influencers who got in trouble for speaking ill of certain figures in organized crime.